Very good. Thank you very much, Spencer. My pleasure to welcome our guests on our second policy forum of the Coalition for Career Development Center. It's my job, I think, to provide a little bit of an intro, very brief, very succinct, for people who are less familiar with our program, just to give you a few highlights about what our overall purposes are and the conditions that are causing us to believe that there's a significant career readiness deficit in our country and our education system we really have to identify. So just as a quick reminder, we generate a lot of data in our, as any other think tank does, and a lot of it is in our white paper that we published in 2019 called Career Readiness for All. I always recommend that people look at that. But just a few little updates here are worth noting that I'll go very quickly, you could read them yourself, but over half of the students enter college, but only 35% receive degrees. That leaves some 65% of the population does not have degrees. 40% of all college students drop out. Nearly 80% of college students enter college, believing it would prepare them for work. But less than a third leaving college believe that's still the case. So there's an expectation of managing expectations there that's quite important. Another factor we thought was significant, that only 33% of U.S. employees are engaged in their job, defined by Gallup as loving their work and striving to improve their organization, while 51% are not engaged and 16% are actually disengaged. Just another, we don't need to be reminded of student debt, but the household student debt, as opposed to individual student debt, that was including some of the parents, is now $57,000. So these are some of the numbers that help us to define the challenges we're trying to confront. Let me go to the next slide, Spencer, if you would mind. Thank you. But our overall response to these kinds of conditions and what the center is all about is to try to build consensus, a national consensus, around our vision of making career readiness for all learners the first priority of American education. We believe that providing all learners with a high quality career development services and technology will help ensure that they secure productive employment in their chosen career pathway as efficiently and cost effectively as possible. I don't think it's fatuous to compare this a little bit to other major education movements like No Child Left Behind or Common Core, Race to the Top. We've heard a lot about those in the past, but I think this is more of an industry-driven philosophy, and also with the support of the nation's governors, that I think is frankly more profound and more enduring. So we're very serious about this purpose, and to try to achieve it, we've worked hard on what we call a solutions framework that we think will do the trick. So let's just take a quick look at the elements of the solutions framework. That basically we define five. These are the five pillars. The five-pillar solution. This is why you're in the today. You're in the second pillar. We had one already last month on prioritizing career planning. Our one today is on emphasizing work-based learning, and we're going to come in December to providing professional career advising. Then in January on the other two. So this will, and of course, we're very hopeful the feedback we get from these meetings will also help us to improve our positioning and our wisdom around these very important pillars. So when we look at these, they also fit well into our career readiness paradigm, kind of the overall vision about how this plays out in the real world. So we might take a look at that, Spencer, if you wouldn't mind. So we call our career readiness paradigm. The next one, if you wouldn't mind. Well, we could take just a moment on this. We're going to be talking about this throughout the meeting today, but we're talking about emphasizing applied and work-based learning solutions, which including work-based learning. We see them here defining quality, improving the quality and utility of industry certifications. Just a quick footnote there, the CCD Center has already formed really a world-class group of industry experts who produce guidelines on what does constitute quality assurance for industry certifications. That report has already been published by the by the CCD Center. Ways also to increase support for high quality CTE, paying for student participation internships, encourage students to earn industry certifications, addressing barriers to youth participation, investing in equitable opportunities. So some of the things we're going to be covering in today's, some of the issues we're going to cover in today's forum. But finally, I just want to go over to this paradigm I mentioned. You still have that there in my slides. The next one. Did I miss that one? No, after that. There should be one more.
I think that slide's missing right now. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but I can articulate it, but I'm very familiar with it, of course. But our career readiness paradigm kind of makes sense. Think the sequences of individuals, they grow up and they go into adulthood. But and even in elementary school, we like the idea of increasing expanding career awareness. In the middle school, developing a personalized career and academic plan, which we have discussed in our last meeting, focus on self and career exploration. In grades 9 and 10, to continue expanding those PCAPs, those personalized career and academic plans. Then in grade 11 and 12, all students should secure an employer-funded summer internship in the student's chosen career pathway. We're not quite at the level yet, and with our friends in industry, to say we're providing these paid summer internships, but we'd like to get there. And I just want to just note quickly, we're feel very fortunate that we have Mary Batch with us today. She's the HR manager of the giant Toyota motor plant in San Antonio. They make all those trucks. But Mary personally is really a major national pioneer in this whole area of employer-funded summer internships. And you'll be hearing from Mary shortly. And finally, in the post-secondary area, that one begins employment or secures a high-quality industry certification in the student's career pathway. The basic concept is whatever your career is, and whenever you finish your academic preparation, you're ready to go directly into work in that field, making the whole system far more efficient and more self-satisfying for everybody involved, both the employers and the students. So that's kind of our broad paradigm in which this is playing out. So with that, I'll conclude my remarks and turn it back to Spencer to introduce the next speaker, or Jan, whoever's going to do that.
All right, I think I can probably just jump right in if that's all right. I'll just I'll just grab it from you, Leo. And as we get started, just want to publicly congratulate you on your recent marriage to our wonderful Peggy, and Peggy as well. Congratulations, and just really exciting. It's a family here when we've been doing this work for so long, and it's just exciting to see everybody just moving forward and great stuff. So we have a first panel. It's really focusing right away on the ways in which we can get engaged in work-based learning. We're excited about how work-based learning becomes the transferable skills that youth are developing, and part of that connection, like we had in the last policy forum, where we talked about kind of the personalized academic and career plans, that whole process is about exploring the ways in which these transferable skills can expand into the world of work. But what makes work-based learning so important is it not only helps them see that they're developing transferable skills, but they get a chance to really see, is this something I'm interested in? Is this something I want to do? And we were fortunate to have a wonderful case study from Kansas, where this young woman who's now a senior in high school said, well, if it wasn't for middle school having work-based learning to show me that I really didn't want to be in a particular area, I may have continued down that line and not gotten to something I was really more excited about. So it's also about self-exploration and career exploration as well. So really excited about that. One of the key themes, and I'm going to just stay on this for a second, Spencer. One of the key themes that's about to emerge in the slide I'm going to show next is that Paul Perkins, who was on our panel last time from Ameritrol, president of Ameritrol, said that we want more employer engagement in the work-based learning, which is we're really excited about. And we've got some sessions. We've got a couple of individuals that'll talk about that today. But employers need support, right? We need scaffolding. We need structure. And so education has to help in a way facilitate the ways in which employers do this. And if I had time, I would tell you fun stories about bringing employers on to talk with youth. We had some of our undergraduates give a couple of swear words with middle schoolers, and it was like, whoa, okay, we got a time out here. Next time we need a little more prep, right? I mean, so you learn as you go. These unfortunate undergrads just not knowing the proper ways of doing things. So we need to facilitate, we need to kind of help build that scaffolding, and I'll show you some data on that in just a second. But first, let me just introduce who our panel is going to be. So we are so excited for all the panelists that are here today. These are very incredibly busy people. Jim Means, thank you so much for joining us today. You'll be our first up when I start the question period, but with our U.S. Department of Education. I mean, this is fantastic to have our federal leadership willing to take some time out to talk with us. Jennifer Gwatkin, who's a dear friend, colleague here in Massachusetts. It's been a wonderful journey as we begin really helping to build that scaffolding for schools to really engage more deeply in work-based learning efforts. And Jennifer's going to talk about that. We've got Kristy from Iowa, and I have to tell you, her biggest fan in the world right now is our own Robin Poirier-Kubitschek. Just can't stop talking about the work that Kristy's doing and what Iowa's doing. So really excited to hear about those issues. And then Nikki Kiss, and we're excited. There's some really cool stuff going on, and we love to say the word Sheboygan. It's one of our favorites because we give a lot of examples of things going on in Sheboygan, Wisconsin. Every time I give examples, it seems to float back to Sheboygan. And Nikki is going to blow your mind in terms of some of the cool things they're doing around making this all come together with some technology. So excited about that. But why don't we move to the next slide? And I want to give you some just in news, and this has to do with return on investment. I tried to play like my Singapore colleagues and use as many acronyms in a sentence as I could, and I did pretty well. I got 3 out of the 5 words or 6 words, so I'm pretty good about that. But anyway, OECD, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, which is something the U.S. is part of. It's part of the large industry corporations around the world, or industry complexes, countries. Their career development arm just released a report last couple of weeks here, taking a look at all the longitudinal studies that have been done on youth development. And in this case, I'm focusing only on the workforce, work-based learning piece of it. But basically, they're finding economic increases, that when there is this quality, personalized career and academic plan that really embeds work-based learning, we're getting 11% more income when they're 28 years old, or 26. That's pretty outstanding when we think about it. But what's amazing through this report is the equity issues, which is something our center is really embracing right now. And when we start talking about what we refer to as kind of high need, high opportunity youth, and you can put in the terms for that, right? Youth of color that have been, that are disproportionately not involved in these high wage earning careers. We're talking about youth with disabilities, youth in low income households, that whatever that group is, foster care, keep going. That whole group are the ones who get the most benefit. They get huge, right? It's a tremendous bump in terms of the economic outcomes. Next slide, Spencer. Keeps going, because this is the part that Paul was talking about, right? That when the school is helping to facilitate this conversation between employers and youth, we're also seeing future wage earnings increase. It's amazing. It's almost down to the point of each time a student is able to report as an adult, I had this great conversation, you get a bump, and each one is kind of adding to it. It just is additive. If I had 4, I'm making more income than if I had 3. So absolutely incredible. It's telling us that we are in the right direction. We need to make this work. And then also, again, in terms of equity, for those youth that are most at risk for dropping out, they're having higher employment rates based on these conversations with employers. They also found great conversations with educators too, but for today's conversation, we're focusing on the power that you all play, that our industry plays in making this work. So with that as a context, next slide. All right. Now I have Robin has got specific notes for me, so I want to make sure I do this well. She runs a tight ship. But Jim, thank you for joining us. If you want to come off mute, so excited to have you here.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, we have from the federal level, we're really interested in really what is this whole thing called work-based learning, and I think it's one of the challenges we have is that it feels like it's a single thing, and depending on what your position is, it might be it's apprenticeships, or it might be for an early childhood it's doing job fairs. But I'm hoping you can kind of give us a sense of the array of activities or experiences that falls in that category, but also it seems like all of a sudden work-based learning and employer engagement is like back on the menu, if you will, right? People are really talking about it. I'm just wondering if you also have some insight as to why all of a sudden it's gotten so popular. So helping us understand the range and helping us understand the popularity. And I just want to step away now and give you a chance to chat with us. And again, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Scott. And on behalf of the Department of Education, thank you for including us in today's conversation about work-based learning. I feel like I have spent the last 20 years living in the golden age of CTE. Its profound importance has been recognized, and it's encouraging to see that attention continue to grow. So why is it so important now? Well, unfortunately, I think you just can watch any evening newscast or pick up any newspaper and see the current challenges facing our country in workforce shortages. And we, right now it seems to be about supply chain, but it can be much larger than that, more pervasive than that. And so it's just there in front of us on a daily basis. So I want to start off with a couple of important points. One is really, as Scott had asked, what is work-based learning? And if I can just have a moment, it's there on the slide to emphasize the definition that comes from the Strengthening Current Technical Education for the 21st Century Act, or sometimes called Perkins 5. And this is a priority. Work-based learning and equity and access are priorities of our administration and of Secretary Cardona. So it is a prime area of attention for all of us. But this work-based learning is an emphasis on sustained interactions with community professionals, real workplace settings, real work, in-depth, firsthand engagement so that students are aware of what those career opportunities are. So it's been elevated in Perkins 5, the new legislation, as are the aspects of access and equity. So again, it's a priority for us. And the second point I want to make is that career and technical education, which combines both academic instruction and technical skill attainment or technical skill instruction, is a program that's designed to meet the needs of so many students, really of all students. So if we talk about CT being an option for all students, and we know that work-based learning is really an important component of CT, then I think we say that work-based learning is for all students as well. And in fact, as I share some things, you can almost synonymously exchange CTE with work-based learning. It is just such an important aspect of that. So Scott mentioned what are the range of experiences, and Leo kind of referenced this in his introductory remarks as well. Effective programs need to start with providing students at the elementary age experiences that they learn what is a career and what are the careers in my community. They're building upon that for middle school so they can begin to get more specific information about those careers and begin thinking about, well, which of those maybe best align with the career interests that I have as an individual. And moving into high school, secondary, and even post-secondary, getting training that is really preparing them for career preparation. So that move from awareness to exploration to career preparation, so that they have the skills ready to enter the workforce when they have reached that point in their process. It's important because for our workforce in America to stay competitive in the 21st century and beyond, we just have to acknowledge that a high school diploma is no longer enough. That students need to have more options to prepare for in-demand careers and gain those skills, opportunities that will prepare them regardless of what their individual circumstances and background may be. And again, I've said that it starts with finding those experiences at early on, but we also know that based off of the example of 2019 Bureau of Labor Statistics report, that a person is likely to hold 12 different jobs in their lifetime. So the experience that students need to be exposed to and the awareness that they have is different than what my grandkids are going to have as compared to what I had. And so those are important points to be aware of as well. And we always want to make sure that we avoid that freshman year of college being your primary career exploration. The expense of doing that on an hourly tuition rate when compared to what those experiences cost in elementary, middle school, and high school Well, it's pretty clear. We need to make sure we provide students those opportunities as early as we possibly can. So we talked a little bit about what the progression is, and I think the distinction between those general experiences that students might be exposed to and what Perkins is defining as work-based learning and trying to make sure students have is all about the level of engagement, the intentionality of those experiences, described by or defined by the level of skills being taught and that focus and the engagement with the professionals. So but the purpose of Perkins 5 is to develop that academic knowledge and technical and employability skills for CT students more thoroughly than programs that just offer that just those general experiences. We want students to realize their career goals. And so to do that, they need to have, through work-based learning or again, CT programs, a higher level of focus and intentionality than just those general education or exploration programs. CT serves as a critical educational pathway for us to maintain and create a homegrown, skilled, in-demand workforce, and work-based learning is a key part of that. So work-based learning makes sense for students because it enables them to gain those employability skills that post-secondary education is looking for and employers are demanding, and equips them with those technical skills so they are ready to go into whatever their chosen job area is. Work-based learning in CT makes sense for employers because it prepares the next generation of skilled workers who are seeking careers that will provide them with a family sustaining wages. And again, I just want to emphasize how important those career preparation activities need to be at that higher level of development, that higher level of focus and intentionality, pairing students with mentors, placing them in the workplace, whether it's internships or apprenticeships. It's just critical to have those experiences so that they get the outcomes they're looking for as individuals, but our workforce is prepared. So some examples of things that we're seeing, a program that I'm working with here in the department is called the Pathways to STEM Apprenticeship for High School CT education students. In fact, I saw someone in the audience who's involved with that from the state of Nebraska. It's a Perkins funded grant. It's been in place for 6 states since 2018, and it supports states' efforts in expanding and improving the transition of high school CT students to post-secondary education and employment through paid apprenticeships in science, technology, engineering, and math, which includes computer science in this instance. So central to the success of this program is that high level of engagement between the educational partners, both K-12 and community colleges, technical colleges, with employers and the industry partners. An additional example of how education values the role that real work plays in the growth of CT students and quality programs is reflected in the fact that 27 states have elected to collect data about work-based learning and to report that to the federal government as one of their Perkins performance indicators. So those states have intentionally made this a high priority for their programs. Third example of engagement between CT students and industry mentors can be seen in the activities of our career and technical student organizations, CTOs. These organizations, through school-based chapters, provide activities that reinforce academic and technical skills, provide opportunities to demonstrate leadership skills, compete with technical skills, and network with fellow students and in professionals. And often those professionals are the individuals that come in and judge and give such critical feedback to the student on their performance in those competitions. It's my experience that a successful work-based learning program has to have strong connections with employers in the community. It needs to create relationships between students and mentors and have dedicated staff for whom that program is a significant and maybe their only priority. And staff who can talk teaching and learning to educators, talent development to industry, and relevance and application to students. I too have experienced in my career an opportunity where I was sitting down with a large aviation company, and they just said, "We don't know what we don't know about education." And I said, "Well, I don't know what I don't know about huge corporations." And so it's getting the right people in the right room for those conversations making sure that everyone is comfortable and knowledgeable, and we can put together some great opportunities for students that will move them forward on whatever their individual career goals are.
Thank you, Jim. That was fantastic. And just for due to time, I think we're going to move to Jen Gwatkin right away as well, but really appreciate the points. And I think we're going to kind of go through some of those as others are talking. I want to introduce Jen. Jen, you're there?
I am here.
All right, awesome. So, you know, Jen, one of the interesting things in that Jim was describing is how, you know, he kept using the CTE kind of language, and work-based learning has always been a part of CTE, but it feels like right now the big shift is we want all students to have access to work-based learning, and we're all realizing the critical nature of it. And I know Andrew, I'm going to combine a couple things. Andrew was calling out the idea that how do we start with work-based learning if students first don't have an idea of their goals? And I think with the career advising core, that the work you're doing kind of addresses that. And I thought maybe you could tell us a little bit about, you know, what's Massachusetts doing in this space, and how it's going, and then also maybe how the whole process, especially with the personalized career and academic plans, what you call MyCap, my career and academic plans, connect as well. So why don't you take it away? I'm so excited to hear from you today.
Good.
So, all right.
Well, thank you. On behalf of the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, we are so grateful for this opportunity to discuss how we are innovating work-based learning experiences for students and endeavoring to provide more students with high quality experiences while they're in high school. So in Massachusetts, just so you have a sense of the landscape, 20% of our students are in traditional CTE programs, which means that 80% of students are not in those traditional CTE programs. In Massachusetts, we call them our Chapter 74 programs. Therefore, their learning is not intentionally connected to career opportunities, along with relevant post-secondary education and training. 75%, probably more, of our Massachusetts employers are having trouble finding people with the right skills. They report that. And at the same time, students are hungry. We know that, for more connection between school and life. So in Massachusetts, several years ago, we created what's called the Innovation Pathways. They're new structure here that predates Perkins 5, but by a couple of years, but aligns well with Perkins 5. These innovation pathways are official, well, state recognized, approved partnerships between Massachusetts high schools and local mass hire workforce development boards and employers, and they're designed to intentionally expand access to students in our academic and comprehensive high schools, so our non-wall-to-wall Chapter 74 whole school vocational schools. By giving students coursework and experience in a specific high demand industry, one that's high demand here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, such as information technology, engineering, healthcare, life sciences, and advanced manufacturing. So innovation pathways are rooted in 5 guiding principles, those being equitable access, guided academic pathways, enhanced student supports, connection to career, and how could I forget this? Effective partnerships. We developed specific criteria for each of those guiding principles. The first one I like to always pause on, equitable access. All of our pathways, innovation pathways, are designed to increase equitable access by eliminating barriers to participation. We want our programs to keep entry as open as possible, particularly without regard for prior academic performance. Programs should proactively engage students of color, students with disabilities, English language learners, first-generation college goers, or really students who might not otherwise see themselves as having a place in this 21st century economy and these high skills, high demand sectors. And the program is actually designed and funded such that it is free for all student participants and includes tuition if dual enrollment is being leveraged, fees, and other related expenses. When it comes to guided academic pathways, all of the innovation pathways must include a scope and sequence of a minimum of 4 courses. 2 of the 4 courses must be technical courses, and what we mean by that is they need to be related to the industry sector concentration. And then a minimum of 2 of the 4 courses must be advanced courses that provide the student with an opportunity to gain dual enrollment or advanced placement, international baccalaureate, college credit. So all the students, as Scott was saying, have to have an individual plan. We're calling it MyCap here in Massachusetts. That's My Career and Academic Plan. It's managed online using an electronic platform that's designed for that purpose. We have MIFA pathways here in Massachusetts. Many of you are familiar with Naviance, Zello. We also have Mass CIS. But career development education is an aspect of advising with career awareness, exploration, and immersion activities that are built into the advising process. and college access and awareness activities and a post-secondary plan are all included in the student's MyCap. For enhanced student support, programs need to identify potential academic and non-academic challenges for potential student participants. They need to have plans and contacts for supports for academic, non-academic, and career purposes. That's included but not limited to counseling, advising, and tutoring, both at the high school as well as when they're engaging with industry. This is, I think, the hallmark of Innovation Pathways. Innovation Pathways provide the targeted exposure to the pathway opportunities that lead to careers, and students participate as their culminating experience in a 100-hour internship or capstone with related quality indicators. Effective partnerships, schools can't do this in isolation. They are partnering with their local mass hire board, as I mentioned before, and at least one employer partner. So again, the emphasis for Innovation Pathways is on broad sector alignment, not occupation specific, which is a lot our traditional vocational programming here. It is our goal that participation in this pathway will contextualize student learning, engage students in their high school experience, and can lead students to opportunities for meaningful careers in the relevant industry sector upon completion of the needed post-secondary education and training. And if they're doing their MyCap, they should have a good sense of what they need to do to get to where they want to go. So in order to have a thoughtful and measured process for applicants, we offer districts an opportunity to be formally designated, hence what I mentioned before about official. There's this formal designation process. It's two-phased. It takes approximately 9 months to get through. We offer technical support along the way, every step, and the approvals come from our Commissioner of Elementary and Secondary Education. To date, we have 121 pathways in 49 schools, 48 districts across Massachusetts, and we're in the process of reviewing 23 new submissions that we received on October the 29th. And I'll put in the chat links to some resources. First, the Innovation Pathways website, which is on our DESE website, where you'll find criteria for designation, the timeline for the school year, this current
Just
school
put it
year.
in. It's in.
Okay, cool, it's in. Oh, thank you. And we have a community practice site, and then also I can put links in the chat too to a toolkit that we have that's helpful for folks regardless of where they are in the application process or even as they are implementing. And we have a pathways mapping tool that's pretty cool, where you can see where these schools are and also see where our Chapter 74 programs are and what else we have in the Commonwealth. So I was very long-winded, and I hope I didn't go too long, but I really appreciate this opportunity to talk about IP, as we call it here.
Really appreciate it, Jen. And so, yeah, I put it in the chat box while you were talking, one of the links, but the toolkit would be great. The other thing, you know, as Jen knows, I've actually been helping my school district here in Massachusetts get their application in for the IP. And I think what's also really exciting is again, these are not CTE specific schools, but they're leaning into pathways. And I think what's also exciting is because you have so many schools that are doing it in districts, now they're starting to create their own community of practice. And so they're willing for schools to reach out so they can learn lessons of what everyone's done. And it's a fabulous momentum builder that you've got. So thanks, Jen, for your great work. Really good stuff. So now, Kristy, are you there?
Yes, I am.
So excited to hear about Iowa. And I really am excited because of that little return on investment point we to really make sure that these kinds of conversations and intermediaries, as you're going to talk about, are effective. We got to help it, right? The schools and the intermediaries need to provide good structures and supports for employers so that when they come and work with our youth, it's a winning and a very quality experience. So, so excited to hear what you have in Iowa, and why don't you take it away and just kind of give us an insight into what you've been doing.
Perfect. Thank you so much for inviting me. I appreciate any opportunity to share what's going on in our great state of Iowa. Love Iowa. So here in our state, as Jim had pointed out, when it comes to Perkins 5, we are counting those high impact ongoing relationship type of experiences. So internships, pre-apprenticeships, and apprenticeships, and then a handful of our service area opportunities to really count as the Perkins 5 program indicator at the secondary level. However, we all know that students don't magically figure out what they want to do their senior year to take advantage of those programs. So how do we help students explore up until those points in time? Also, while knowing that educators are very busy and a lot of times their schedules are very restricted, so being able to be responsive to industry becomes a little complicated. So henceforth, here we have the Iowa Intermediary Network. They act truly as an intermediary. They work with education and understand their goals. They work with industry and understand their goals, and then are able to merge both of these opportunities to come together and create these exceptional opportunities. So they work on a regional basis, housed out of our 15 different community colleges spread across our state. And that regional approach increases our equitable access, because no longer are you confined to the district or the community that you live in for access to careers, but now you have a regional approach and somebody advocating to make sure that those opportunities exist for all of our schools, not just our schools in our large cities. So not only do they increase the equity in those components, but then they can create these career events which capitalize and use efficient use of time for both schools and industry. You can invite multiple schools to a big event to do hands-on experiences while cultivating and understanding the expectations that are relevant in our educational institutions. We also are focused more on quality work-based learning and believe in spreading the wealth of knowledge. Why make everybody recreate the wheel? So they work with creating a series of different tools and informational pieces to help support the expansion at the local level as well. Because we know that a student can't just take advantage of an opportunity. There's some preparation that needs to happen, as well as some reflection. So I know Jennifer had shared what they do in Massachusetts. We have something very similar. We call it an ICAP here in Iowa. Reflecting based off of that experience. So now what? Do you want to explore more? Do you want to do a job shadow as some sort of follow-up, or do you want to do a tour or take advantage of this opportunity? So they're very much involved in the schools on that aspect. Now, because of what they do is so in person, last fall was a little tricky, right? Because people weren't getting together. So they happened through a conversation with one of our big statewide industry partners. What if turned into a we'll do it, right? So we created these virtual online events, which were connecting our statewide partners. So Iowa Association of Business and Industry, Iowa Business Council, Iowa Skilled Trades, Iowa PBS, Iowa Society of CPAs. They found these top professionals from across the state to represent all of our students, so our students could see themselves in those career paths. And they were tied to these specific events that were connected to CTE standards that also included an assessment. It was a nice little package deal, because not only were these free to anyone to access, students, educators, or non-educator partners, but they're a constant on-demand piece that they can show as needed. Plus, if they have a student who is interested in a career path and maybe don't offer that program, they could still do some exploration on demand through these virtual career events. What started as a pilot with about 4,000 students impacted in October ended this past summer with over 16,960 Iowa students impacted and had those career exploration experiences. So that's one of our support networks there. The other piece I have on here are Iowa Work-Based Learning Coordinators. We know that those work-based learning coordinators who help oversee our internship programs often feel isolated. They're the only person in their building. They want someone to talk to who understands some of the different situations that they may encounter, or to be able to just connect and share ideas and documents and such. So the Iowa Work-Based Learning Coordinators is a nonprofit. As a department, I sit on the board, but they do a conference every year, which is essentially a big professional development share. Here's our resources. This is what we do. How do you handle this? I saw a question about liability and insurance always comes up. How do we handle those situations? Do you have certain documents that address confidentiality, especially when it comes to HIPAA? So, and then they also have a virtual platform where they can post questions, answer each other's questions, share resources and such. And then the last one on here, I feel like I'm kind of the catch-all connecting everybody here, is we're always just trying to say, let's stop trying to all reinvent the wheel. Let's just share information. So if I'm hearing several different pieces, maybe it belongs to the Iowa Intermediary Network or the Work-Based Learning Coordinators, or maybe it's something at the department I need to create to help overcome some of those obstacles and support the field. So there's several different resources on there. One of the latest ones was an internship toolkit, which came about because a lot of districts wanted me to walk them through how to set up an internship program. So I just set it up as a series of district conversations, because we're a local control state, that they need to go through and think through so that they can have the best program possible. Because why have to go through all of the aches and pains if the aches and pains have been figured out? Let's just communicate out what that is. That was very fast, Scott, but I felt like I wanted to get it all in.
just, you're hearing it in the chat box. Wow, fantastic. And I know Leo's sitting there very excited. He's been on this drum around intermediaries for since we started the coalition, and to see how it's being played out and to hear 16,000 youth getting access to employers is just,
and that was just
amazing.
The virtual. That was
That's
just
what
the
I'm
virtual.
saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think,
Yeah.
and I hope we don't stop the virtual, right? Because it really becomes a fantastic opportunity, and it was an innovation that was part of the process of dealing with COVID, and it exploded as such a, why weren't we doing this to begin with, kind of an innovation, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, because one of my favorite ones was the CEOs from across the state. How often can you get a CEO in your classroom?
Right,
and now
exactly.
you have access to 3 CEOs who can talk about and identify with struggles in high school, and that it's going to be okay. And this is what they did to get where they are.
That's awesome. Fantastic, Kristy. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Really, really excited. Nikki, are you there? Are you around?
I am here. You can hear me, right?
Yeah. Now, you know, Wisconsin has always done it their own way, but you've also been a role model for other states. And I know we've had a lot of people kind of watching over your shoulder to see what's happening. And I think the same way in this. I mean, one of the things that makes you so unique is, yes, you're starting to look at the intermediaries in a little bit different way. You're engaged with the local chambers of commerce as part of really and I think it was Green Bay that was the first one to really even start this conversation about how can we connect business more effectively with our schools, and we're looking for technology solutions. And so I'm so looking forward to having people hear about the work you're doing right now, and the kinds of technology you're bringing to bear, because it feels very scalable and very exciting. So why don't you take it away, Nikki? So excited.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
No, thanks for including us. It's nice to hear the dialogue starting from like the federal government and where the priorities are, and seeing states across the United States that are emphasizing this work, because I feel like within our community, this has been like a critical conversation that we've been having since like 2009, 2010. And it's crazy for me to say like these are different decades that we've been having these conversations, but it really has been happening there. And I think just to give you a little bit of context around the state of Wisconsin, we have really good state entities in place that are guiding some of the direction of where we want our schools and our students to focus their time on in relation to academic and career planning, and also pathways. However, our state is really, it's great. And it's also a little bit of an Achilles heels that we're very local control focused. So we like to give each one of our school districts and each one of our communities kind of the power to do what makes the most sense for them. And I think that's almost exactly how Sheboygan became what it was, because thankfully we live in a community that has a lot of private family-owned businesses that see value in investing in their school systems and their youth. And we have a lot of schools that really see value in connecting with businesses to help provide that meaningful content and bridge that connection for students in our community. So we started back in 2012 in Sheboygan County, and just, you know, a high level, our mission was we want to connect students to career experiences. And then we also want to, on the flip side, connect our employers to the future workforce. And, you know, we've been sharing that out for the last 8 years, and it's slowly grown, because I think the message that we're pulling in here is that, and I didn't even realize we were an intermediary until we started using this terminology in career readiness, is we recognized early on that schools talk one way and they have their own priorities and their own challenges, and then businesses have a whole nother language that they follow. And then these two entities just need time to be able to connect and to build that common language, and then also build that ability to make those connections happen. And what we realized early on is that the energy and the willingness to do work-based learning activities, and even like lesser activities like job shadows and guest speaking, it's there, it's important for these businesses and they want to do it, but it's like the how and making it easy enough, because I don't know if we have any private industry members that are here in this room right now, but I can tell you from the private industry side of it and the business side of it. It's like they run from like fire to fire to fire. And then all of a sudden I'm supposed to interface with the student and tell them all these different things. And they just don't necessarily know how to do that. We have to remember that like in people that are in the workforce, they didn't go to school to learn how to teach youth. They went to school for a specific purpose. So now we got to try to bring all of that together to make it easy for them. So we just, in the 8 years that we've been working very hard within our county, we slowly have grown. I know we're almost really starting to try to take the branding of Inspire Wisconsin right now, because the work that we're doing is leaking outside of that county. So Wisconsin has 72 counties. Sheboygan was one. Yes, we did start as a partnership within the Chamber of Commerce. But what we quickly developed was kind of like our own unique niche of how we can help support our businesses and our schools, and yet also continue to collaborate with our Chamber of Commerce in our community. So fast forward to pre-COVID, like we were on like a record pace year to host, we had about 1,000 like in-person student connections. And that was by March. So that was March of 2020. We were like ready to high five and like just jump out of our seats when we had our annual meeting, and we could share like the number that we actually reached at the end of the school year. And then COVID hit, and really what forced us to do, and I think Iowa said the same thing, is it forced us to launch into that virtual platform. And what we quickly realized is the technology and the systems that we've built to make the connections easy for students, to make receiving the connections easy for the businesses. It allowed us to take that like 1,000 in-person connections in like the first 7 months of the school year we had 4,000 kids plug into the 2 months that we were like fully virtual. So look at April of 2020 and then May of 2020, we were able to connect 4,000 students into, I think we had like 35-ish different sessions where we just kind of broke down the major career pathways and highlighted companies from our region. And then fast forward that through this last school year, and we were able to double those virtual connections. And we really weren't able to have a lot of in-person stuff last year yet, just because it wasn't something that or this year really that we've been able to. We're trying to, I don't know if Iowa and some of these other states can relate. It's like now I think people got really accustomed to virtual, and we have to kind of get our footprint back into getting people used to going out. It's like we're really liking this ease of access, but there is some very important pieces that you do get when you're in person. You're there, you're seeing things, you're talking to people, you're smelling what the building smells like, because all of that plays an important role in this part. So we're continuing to focus on growing and helping everyone throughout the state of Wisconsin to be able to have this, because I think what we've been able to demonstrate from a grassroots level is now we have like the systems and structures built. So now we gotta go put the pieces together so that we can grow it throughout the entire state of Wisconsin. So thanks so much for letting us come in and share a little story.
Nikki, thank you for all your great work, and Kristy and Jen. It's amazing at the state level to be, your schools must just be so excited to have you all working on their behalf. So thank you so much. Want to do a quick couple things. We're going to turn it over to Gary right away, given the time. One of the things I just want to point out is, Nikki, in your system, what makes it exciting too is that, like Andrew was saying, we got to figure out how to align these work-based learning experiences to their goals. And the system you have is exactly designed to do that. Once they figure out something they're interested in, right, they're able to see the different occupations that link to that, and the businesses that'll offer them opportunities. So it's a fantastic online system. Yeah, all right. So the last thing I want to do is just, we're going to be short on time. I want to remind those state leaders that are on the call, as well as other members of our board and others that might be interested. We have a State Leaders Career Development Network on Friday, a meeting at 1 o'clock. Reach out to Robin in the private chat if you are not on our email list, to make sure you're there. We'd love to have you join us. And we're going to be following up on and just having more conversation about things we were talking about today, but it'll be more of a conversation than being talked at, which is always fun. Gary, so you're there, and I want to thank you so much for being a member of our CCD Center board. Our board is phenomenal, and Gary is just one of those phenomenal individuals. And without really any ado, that we're really now getting into the industry level conversations now. And I think you've heard enough from the education side. So excited to have you moderating and taking the lead, and with Mary, Lynda, and John supporting. It's just really excited about the second half.
Great. Thank you, Scott. No, thank you once again to the previous panelists and to Jim for providing that insight. Nikki there at the end talked about the how. And one of the things that we're lucky enough today is to have 3 employer partners that have implemented work-based learning in their own facilities. So joining me today is Mary Batch, Human Resource Development Manager for Toyota Motor Manufacturing in Texas, Lynda Gayden, Executive Director, Biotech Partners with the California STEM Internship Program, and then John Gowey, Vice President of Sales, North America, Critical Industries for Snap-on Tools. And so now we're going to hear about some great employer partners in this work-based learning space. So Mary, if you could, please describe how and why Toyota, a multinational corporation, began to develop work-based learning experiences for high school and college students. Also describe how do you connect with those students?
Okay, well, thank you so much, Gary, for the introduction, and thank you for allowing me that honor to be on this panel today. So a couple of things. I'll address your first question. Toyota, and I'm sure with all manufacturing organizations, we experience a large gap in our labor market to obtain qualified talent. And if there is qualified talent out there, then companies are poaching off of one another. So our strategy was to position ourselves by creating and building a flexible and adaptable workforce that can navigate through their current challenges while driving long-term economic growth. This is not an easy thing to do. This needed new partnerships, and the partnerships needed to happen at the high school level as part of that strategic emphasis on expanding opportunities that were unavailable at that level. So we had a very intentional approach in Texas to expose high school youth in manufacturing experience that could lead to career opportunities. Of course, high schoolers are going to only know what they know. So if they don't know about it, then they're not going to be able to pursue it. And we continue this strategy to this day for 11 years now going, for providing summer internships with high schoolers. And yes, we did do it during COVID as well. So just for everybody to understand that, we did not miss a beat there. It's about expanding the mindset in the younger generation while building skills outside the classroom in a new way of learning manufacturing through an earn and learn program that creates an environment by investing in the development and new talent. Now, as you can see in the chart we have here in the bottom left, that is a career pathway. This is the second one. Recently, I've actually modified the last 2 segments in it where you see the green square and the light blue square. But we start with the high school program, okay? And the high school program is through the Alamo Academies. That's where we started off at, and they had 4 different areas of academies there with the Aerospace Information Technology, the Advanced Technology, and Manufacturing Academy, and Health Professional Academies. And every one of them required a sponsorship. We signed on to doing this 11 years ago, and we did it with the intention of really developing a positive social, economic, and community impact between the business sector and our community. And that's really what the basis was for why we're doing this. And we've had really good results with that, really built up our rapport as a company of the community than just a multi-global corporation, which that in itself was a good return on investment. But the Advanced Technology Manufacturing Academy, the ATMA program, was the one that we focused on and is designed to aid youth to develop and pursue a workable manufacturing career track. So I was under the idea that if we can at least get them through the door so they can see what manufacturing was, that would be a win, because we knew that that would excite them once they got in there and they could actually see what was going to happen, what career pathways they would have, what kind of entry-level pay they could make, what the work environment was, how it was really, really safe, and also what those educational goal requirements were going to be needed, and the skills associated with a specific occupation. And this is where we really gave birth to this through this. It was very, very successful. We noticed right off the bat in 2011, when we first started this program, that the students were just like those diamonds in a rough. They were soaking up everything like a sponge. We became very, very excited about this. And we decided that we needed to find a pathway so we can keep them engaged and be able to enable them to pursue the careers that they wanted. And that's where we gave birth to what we have, our 2-year program, which we call the Advanced Manufacturing Technician Program. And we really developed this to address the silver tsunami, but really at the best right now, we've been addressing just natural annual attrition with it. So we're still not keeping up with it as we intended, but we've made a major impact to it. Of the students that actually have gone through the program from the academies into the AMT program, 72% of them actually enter that program and graduated from that 2-year associate's degree program. And that's what's so exciting about this, because they're just learning what manufacturing is, and they don't have to spend any money in it. They don't have to spend a lot of money on college courses and things like that. They can go in there, explore it, decide what they want to do. And the majority of them, like I said, 72% will go enter that. The others will pursue a 4-year degree into typically engineering, or they'll go off and to the military or just pursue something different and found out it wasn't their flavor of the month. So, which is fine, because that's all it's about, is for them to learn what manufacturing is and everything that was involved in it. In addition to that, when we learned that this work-based learning program really made that smooth transition for the career pathway from the high school into that 2-year program, that was another one, because it really, really gave us the emphasis that we needed to have to really put together a good strategy. Now, we've always been really good at putting together really, really good plans up front. So when we do put them in action, we follow the true PDCA. When we do put them in action, usually we're just tweaking it and we're going in there and making some improvements to it. But the overall strategy has remained the same since the day one. Okay, so some of the things that I wanted to tell you about this on this first slide before we go into the next one is that we recruit one time. We'll see this high schooler, meet them a couple times, we'll interview them, and the interview will tell us whether or not they would be a good candidate, a good fit. And then once we bring them in, we're basically recruiting them one time, but we're hiring them 3 times. We'll hire them to go through the high school program. We'll hire them to go through the 2-year apprenticeship, internship. Then we'll hire them again as a full-time employee. So that's a win-win across the board, because there's a lot of money that you lose that you have to pay out when you're recruiting. And this actually helps and saves the company on those type of things as well. As you look into this graph over here to the right, this is some of the results we've got from it. And I just want to put a shout out there. All the photos that you see in the 2 slides are all students that started with us as high school students in their junior year and continue to stay with us. Some of them now have been with us for 6, 7 years now, and they really have beginning to put a tenure in. They're moving up in the leadership positions within the company. They're going into our development programs, and they're also going to, I have up there one that says SABI. So really what that is it's a support engineering group. So they're moving into some of these more elite positions as well. Can't say enough about it. Currently right now, these graduates have gone through this program, represents 33% of our maintenance workforce now. This young generation coming through there is actually coming in there and they're making strides, and they're making a world of difference, and they're changing the culture. Okay, so we can go into the next slide, if you don't mind. So in the next slide here, what you're seeing here is really our return of investment. Our programs, both the high school and the 2-year college program, is our preferred and primary hiring pool. Our hiring managers will only choose these individuals now. They've had up to 3 years to interview these individuals, look at the work ethics, see how well they do. Their accelerated skill level, we do assessments, and we know that their skill level, when they get done with the program, they're up there with the 5- and 6-year maintenance technician that comes in as an external candidate. They're scoring 10% higher on all the acquired skills than our current workforce. And also too, they're coming in with a renewed, fresh mindset, and they're instilling a very positive company culture. And not only that, but starting with the high school programs, we have 30 to 45% female participation in those summer internships. And that's huge because it's the biggest draw for us in our 2-year program to bring those young females in. The females now in our workforce make up 10% of our multi-skilled maintenance workforce. As you can see, it's a very rigorous program. 77% of them will complete. 33%, like I said earlier, are in our current workforce now as full-time employees. Of those that complete the program, 94% of them will accept the job offer from us, and 92% retention from the very beginning to the end that we still have from the past 8 years from the AMT program from the high school pipeline, 92%, which is huge for us, for these young individuals. Okay, back to your second question that you have for me. How do we connect and select students to take part in our high school work-based learning programs? Okay, we have several ways that we do this on how we connect with students. The most beneficial way is visiting the STEM, the science, technology, engineering, mathematics, career, technology, education classrooms, and competition events such as First Robotics, Skills USA, and those type of things to present to the high schoolers opportunities for them to be able to go into and learn about manufacturing in more depth with the students. And also too, we do what we call Manufacturing Month. We don't just do Manufacturing Day, we do Manufacturing Month, and also provide job shadow opportunities. When we do these job shadow opportunities, we actually have our AMTs in there actually demonstrating and speaking to these high school students, just so they can actually have more close to peer-to-peer contact of individuals that have gone through it and been successful. We do reach out to the middle school in different STEM venues as well. Our biggest one is what we call Core 4 STEM with the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce in San Antonio. And it gives us an opportunity every fall to reach 5,000 middle school students that are from economically disadvantaged school districts. And that's been a really huge draw, just showing them, getting them excited, giving them opportunities to touch things and play around with the different technologies when they're in this venue. When we're selecting our students, the most important educational requirement the students must achieve to successfully pass both the safety and quality practice measurements in the National Manufacturing Skills Standards Council, the MSSC credentials, by the end of their junior year. So they have to be able to do this in order to qualify for an interview with us. But in their interview, we ask them, situational questions. We want to know what STEM classes they've been in, what kind of clubs they've been in, sports activities. We want to know what kind of activities they've been doing out in the community, just to see what kind of leadership capabilities they have, and really understand the safety culture and their motivation and how they problem solve. So these are all really important, and this is how we actually make our selections. And I will have to tell you right now that our females have been the most successful in both programs than their male counterparts. And that is really, really exciting to see this. I'll put a link in the chat for a video that the National Alliance of Partnerships and of Inequity actually did a video, and with the coordination with the Toyota Foundation, did a video, and it is very powerful to listen to these young females that have actually are going through this program and what it meant to them. And I believe that I've answered your questions, Gary.
Mary, thank you so much. I mean, what a phenomenal program that Toyota has been able to implement, and already you have enough history with the program to be actually showing the success. And it was so refreshing to hear you actually were able to maintain the program even during COVID. So you haven't even missed a beat to continue that pipeline into your facility. So thank you so much for sharing. I'd like to move on to Lynda. So Lynda, again, is the Executive Director of Biotech Partners. And they have a very unique way that they're connecting high school students to work-based learning experiences, especially students of color. So I'd like to ask you, Lynda, to please share with us how Biotech Partners is achieving this.
Thank you so much for including us into this vibrant conversation. I'm honored to share the work of Biotech Partners. Biotech Partners is an independent nonprofit and was established in 1993 out of an unprecedented 30-year development agreement between the City of Berkeley and Bayer Healthcare. Biotech Partners believes that it takes an entire village to train up a child. And that village for Biotech Partners is translated into established partnerships with education, industry, government, and community organizations. Our pioneering workforce development training model provides a 4-year, 2-part component of high school courses, paid internships, community college, and co-ops. BP combines academic and career technical education programming with extensive wraparound student support and outcome emphasis of a paid summer internship. The program connects high school students, predominantly youth, from demographics underrepresented in STEM fields to bioscience professionals and organizations through both school-based academic and workforce preparation and industry-based internships. We refer to our students as at promise, looking at their raw potential and building upon their strengths to allow them the opportunity to believe in themselves and see that they can enter and achieve a career within the life science field. Over the past 29 years, BP has successfully coordinated industry internships, excuse me, for high school students, predominantly underrepresented in STEM, to work at approximately 30 private or public sector STEM institutions for 6 to 8 weeks each summer. Upon the completion of the 11th grade curriculum, rising 12th graders enrolled in the Biotech Academy, based at 4 Bay Area high schools, have the opportunity to apply for paid positions, working 20 hours per week for 6 to 8 weeks, usually in a research lab or pharmaceutical manufacturing role. The internships allow students to explore and expand their emerging biotechnology lab skills, knowledge of bioscience subjects, and professional career skills developed in school through the on-the-job training under the guidance of a professional mentor. Throughout the school year, students participate in BP's hands-on curricula that embeds biotechnology content in career technical education, preparing them in molecular biology, microbial cell culture, biochemistry, lab tools and equipment, computer and data analysis, among other pertinent skills, including over 40 good laboratory practice laboratory experiments. During the pandemic, Biotech Partners was called upon industry to translate those wet labs to remote internships. We continued programming and translated in-person internships to remote paid internships. The curricula is reviewed annually by participating teachers and industry partners to ensure core biotech concepts align with evolving industry standards and science education frameworks. BP staff, specifically our program coordinators, are embedded in the classroom, collaborate closely with the classroom teachers to prepare the labs and curricular materials, provide instructional support in the classroom, and offer students personalized mentoring and tutoring in a range of subjects to support their academic learning and social emotional development. The incorporation of paid industry internships helps engage youth and motivate them to persist in rigorous academic training and professional preparation in the workplace. We have 98% of our students graduate and pursue post-secondary education. 100% placement of the bioscience career graduates are placed into full-time technical positions and or transfer to 4-year institutions of higher learning. Our alum are employees of Bayer, Genentech, Joint Bio Institute, BioMarin, Amyris, and many more biotech industry. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynda. I mean, just an amazing program that Biotech Partners has there. And, you know, as Scott mentioned, I mean, showing the way to build capacity to youth that may have never had the opportunity to be exposed to the STEM fields. And you just think about how important biotechnology and pharma has been and how it's even raised in relevance here the last 18 to 24 months, and to have more and more children get that opportunity, more and more youth to be exposed to the life sciences is an amazing work that you're doing. So thank you so much for what you're doing for the youth.
Thank you.
So I'd like to turn to John now. So John, I mean, it's going to be tough to follow when Mary was able to show some of the return on investment that Toyota had, but I think Snap-on themselves have also experienced some wonderful ROI in your work-based learning programs. Can you maybe help to tell us a little bit more about that there at Snap-on?
Sure, I appreciate it very much. Well, before I get started, I just want to extend a gratitude to all the presenters so far. What a fantastic panel to this point. You know, when we look at Snap-on and we think about our involvement in work-based learning, it was really exemplified in your previous panel when you had Jennifer and Nikki and Kristy all kind of telling about, you know, their ICAP programs and MyCap programs in Massachusetts and Iowa. That's what we're here to do. As Snap-on Incorporated, not only we are manufacturing in the United States with 9 locations, but we also have a global manufacturing. But we also serve the industries from aerospace to natural resources to power generation to advanced manufacturing. So we have a wealth of knowledge, not only from our internal businesses, but the customers that we serve. And our support within the education community, within workforce education and development, is being that collaborator, that conduit between the needs of industry and the education to build curriculum and to build certifications that are relevant to the students so that they can hit the ground running within industry. That collaboration is vital. We use that through the National Coalition of Certification Centers. But you talked earlier, I believe it was Jim earlier, talked about the skills gap. That skills gap is only widening. And we know that as manufacturers, we see that, our customers see that. And when you talk about supply chain, I believe you may have mentioned that earlier, Scott. That world that we see is not necessarily large corporations, but the vast network of small local manufacturers in your communities that are the supply chain and the supporting vendors for those large OEM manufacturers. And that's where the growth and opportunity is when you start to look at workplace development and you start to look at work-based learning. One of the things that we do within our program, within our skills-based learning to help close that gap, is work with education to replicate industry so that the students are learning in an environment that will feel and operate just like the environment that they're going to be hired into, and that their skills are transferable into those environments. The other one is really about career awareness. When you think about it, as you're coming up as the youth in high school and even elementary, as I believe it was Kristy alluded to earlier, you don't know your path yet. You don't even know the opportunities that are available. And there's a vast, vast network of career pathways that we can expose children to through makers and fixers and talking about and celebrating the trades. We can restore the dignity to work. We can let people know that there's a pathway that can lead to prosperity for their family and generations to come. And that the skills to do that are relatively a diminishing aspect when you think about where we are today and how to use basic measuring skills and basic electrical skills. These are the things that employers need today. So we work with the NC3, the National Coalition of Certification Centers, to do 78 certifications that support industry in 16 different aspects. And when we look at ROI, when we work with schools in Northwest Iowa, when we work with Gateway in different community colleges as well as Pima, we see that ROI exude in their performance, right? So one of the examples would be Pima Community College in Arizona, local dealerships group who are hiring students to go through apprentice programs, paying for their education. So when they come out, they can be placed in their dealerships and be able to support their technicians. We see this with aerospace manufacturing, with Alabama and Airbus and some of the programs that they're using to reach their high school students with certifications to be able to support them from a manufacturing standpoint, as well as building up the skills to support their suppliers in those same markets. So when we look at the ROI and we look at that, we look at examples where it's paying off and where it's paying dividends for those communities to support those networks. I know we're running out of time, so I really don't want to take it. I just want to just re-identify, or I would say refocus on the fact that work-based learning is essential to be able to replicate that industry and to keep doing it. So I encourage all of the previous folks who spoke about their programs within Massachusetts and Iowa and Wisconsin. I commend you. You are leading the charge. We are here to help support, and together as a collaborative effort, we can accomplish that goal, Scott, that you mentioned before, which is looking at these internships and integrating high school education into this environment so we can grow years to come and be able to support the need of not just today, but tomorrow's workforce.
Yeah, thank you, John. I mean, the connection that you created with the schools is something that I've learned is so critical for industry partners to be involved at the school level so that they're teaching and educating on the right things. And they're tailoring their education based on the local needs of industry and ensuring that their relevant skills are being developed. And then your partnership with NC3 to add those credentials so that those graduating individuals have those credentials to take with them is hugely valuable. So thank you for sharing with us, John. I wanted to go back and ask one more question to Lynda. With Biotech Partners, describe a bit about how you go through the selection process of finding students to go into your work-based learning programs.
One of the ways in which we do that is we actually do recruit our students on the campuses. We speak to the counselors to know where the students, some of their clubs are, and understanding that. We also work with the teachers in terms of understanding where the young people are in their academics. We can work with students who have a 1.75 GPA all the way up, and the purpose of our program is to really support and bring those GPAs all the way up to a 3.0, not only in the Biotech Academy, but at least a C in their other coursework, which brings us to those paid internships. And so we work with industry's human resources department and the legal department to place the student in an internship. And Biotech Partners is in compliance with state labor and municipal labor laws. We work with school administration and prepare students to produce the required documents for work eligibility and provides the required insurances to the industry partner prior to the student's onboarding process. Students are paid that educational stipend or wages from contributions of the industry partner. Student wages are set according to the city in which the intern will work. We strive for equity and compensation, thus Biotech Partners will supplement student stipends and wages to reach parity with other students. Biotech Partners with the mentor supervisor monitors the student performance, and we also serve as that employer of record. We've trained over 4,000 youth and placed over 1,600 youth into paid meaningful internships and co-op life science positions, resulting in student earnings of more than $3.6 million. This slide represents—
Thank you so much, Lynda.
Yes.
Please, share that.
Yeah,
this is a great record as well.
This is a collective earnings of our students of all the high schools from 2016 to 2021. I kind of cut it short just for you to get a picture of what it takes to work within the industry, working very closely with them to provide that internship, looking at the cost that it takes to manage the internships. And so we have the Biotech Partners cost, in which we do raise funds, and that comes from some of our industry partners, as well as our hosts will support Biotech Partners with a direct contribution restricted to those internships. So from 2016 to 2021, out of that $3.6 million, it was $605,224 of the collective earnings of these high school students.
Thank you so much. I mean, again, the contributions are phenomenal. One of the things that's interesting is when I was discussing with a manufacturer who had established a work-based learning program, and they were trying to spread that to other manufacturers around their community to build the program. And a couple of the areas they really struggle with was things like the labor relations and ensuring that employers knew that, 16 years old and older in most places is perfectly fine to employ even in a manufacturing environment, and how insurance has worked and how they are covered under standard workmen's compensation. And so to hear that you're actually acting as a conduit to help facilitate between the schools and those employers is adding tremendous value to that work-based learning program. So thank you so much. Well, with that, what a wonderful panel today. I wanted to, again, thank our first panel, and again, thank Mary, Lynda, and John as well. And I'd like to turn it over to Jan at this point for some closing comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. And I want to add to everyone my thanks. I mean, this really was fascinating discussion. And what I think is so exciting is to hear how much is being done at the state level to generate work-based learning experiences, incorporating it into their state plans, and then to hear how employers are using it and the importance of it to industry. It's that combination and the economic impact. Lynda, thank you. I mean, that was fascinating because at the end of the day, that's what's going to make a difference. I want to thank all of the panelists for sharing the information. Jim Means from Octave for sharing really how it's growing from starting out just as career technical education to where it's about for all students. And that's what the Coalition for Career Development Center is about. It's about career development, career advisement for all students so that they begin to understand what are their options, what are their choices, where are their strengths and weaknesses, and how do they build an education curriculum and pathway that'll help them meet their own personal goals down the road. For Toyota, Snap-on, Biotech, that was just fascinating how you are using work-based learning. So really want to thank you for all of that. It's making a huge difference. And I want to add that, thanks to, Perkins legislation, as I said, many states like the ones that were presented today by Jennifer, Kristy, and Nikki, say that 3 times, presented have advanced this work on work-based learning at the state level through their guides and their program alignments. Many needs still exist, however, to ensure that more work-based learning experiences are available to more students and that they are indeed quality activities for both students and employers. So we at the center encourage states to participate and to network together through the State Leaders of Career Development Network that was mentioned earlier today, and with the center so that we can address any barriers as well as opportunities to work-based learning, but specifically barriers such as preparing both the students and the employers for experiences, understanding child labor laws, wage requirements, flexibilities for students in work-based learning, and supporting those states that use work-based learning as defined by Perkins for federal secondary CTE accountability, especially as Jim Means had talked about. So we encourage you all, the center is on their website, ccd-center.org, is compiling resources and stories of what has been happening out there. We will add this. There will be a recording of today's session will be posted on the website. But if you are doing or know of a good work-based learning experience at the state level or by industry, please share it with us. You can send it to smurray@ccd-center.org. He's just put his email address in the chat box because that's how we're going to continue that communication and that sharing of information. So again, I want to thank all of our panelists today. This was an absolutely fascinating and informative session. I encourage you all, our next policy forum is going to be December 8th. Yes, December 8th from 3 to 4:30, and that's going to be on career advising. As you can see, as Leo talked at the very beginning, we are going to be addressing in depth what is happening with each of our 5 career advisement pillars. So I want to thank you all for coming. I hope you found it as interesting, as informative as I did. Scott and Gary, thank you for phenomenal moderation. You guys are always great at facilitating programs and discussions. So I thank you all. And I wish you all a good day. And if I don't talk to you before then, have a very happy, wonderful, and filling Thanksgiving. Talk to you all
All right.
soon. Bye.
Thanks, Jan. Thanks, Gary.